avatar embodiment at all.
Folks, we're going to get started. I just want to say first hello and welcome to the PX Art Gallery. I'm Shelby, the production and content manager for 2021 PXR Conference. Tonight, we are featuring the work of visual artist Sunny Nestler. Sunny's art practice studies the mechanisms of biological life using a process that mimics DNA replication and mutation. Their subject matter cross-pollinates biological processes, for example, the growth of a virus or the changing interpretation of biological gender markers. They are exploring translations of their animation work into interactive virtual reality spaces. Sunny's past work has included collaborative animation, community-led arts programming, volunteering at artist-run centers, and a recent municipal commission. They teach art and science classes and are a Faculty of Writing Associate at Emily Carr University of Art and Design. Both Sunny and I are located on the unceded and stolen territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. We are privileged to be working on these lands. Acknowledging the history of these lands physical bodies occupy is one way to remind ourselves that though we are gathered virtually, we are more than virtual beings. I would encourage all of you to consider the history of the land your physical body occupies and how we can embrace non-colonial frameworks and structures in designing lands in virtual space. Now, please give a warm round of emojis for Sunny Nestler and Coneworms.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shelby. Can everybody hear my amplified voice in the back? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful land acknowledgement, Shelby. I also just wanted to take a moment to think about the infrastructure that is in place to allow us to do these kinds of virtual activities and the impact that that has on our environment and on our ecosystems, and to also just maybe take a moment to ground ourselves as we gather in so many different places at once and also in this virtual space together. And I'm really grateful that you've all decided to join tonight here. I also just wanted to let everyone know if anybody is on joining from a flat screen, I'll be presenting for the first, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, however long it takes to get through my slides. And then I'm going to be showing a 3D animation. So I'll give you a little bit of warning if you are on a flat screen and you want to switch into headset for the 3D part of the presentation. As Shelby said, my name is Sunny Nestler. Feel free to add me as a friend on here if you want to. I use gender neutral pronouns, they and them. And on the next slide is a picture of what I look like. It was the only picture I could find of myself presenting. So I think in the future, maybe we won't feel the need to do this anymore in virtual spaces, but I just wanted to kind of show everyone what I look like in my apartment right now, except with the headset on. And this next slide is me on my birthday last year, kind of getting used to the Zoom life. That's my cake in the bottom right corner. That's me in the top right corner. I share a birthday with my dad, so that's my mom's hand in the bottom right corner giving a cake to me and my dad over Zoom. So I can't tell you if it was delicious or not. But anyway, that's me. That's you can see that's my apartment that I'm in right now. So kind of a goofy, embarrassing picture to start it off. I forget what I put on the next slide, Tyler. So, oh yeah, so my background is in fine arts, and I typically consider myself to be someone who always starts with drawing. So I'm gonna get to this. I'm gonna tell you about the piece that I'm gonna show you here tonight, but I'm also gonna show you a little bit about my practice through two other kind of bodies of work that I'm gonna introduce first. So as someone who really is grounded by drawing and loves to draw and loves to learn about the world through drawing and to learn about understanding my own perception through drawing, I thought I would start with this example that is maybe a bit self-explanatory. I think I made it about maybe 15 years ago, and it's just a drawing showing kind of three different ways of seeing. 2D glasses in the middle, which represent the glasses that I normally wear to see two-dimensionally in the world. 3D glasses that you've probably all seen, maybe not for a while now, but maybe you remember them from the 90s. And at the top is a pair of 1D glasses where the idea is to kind of black out everything except for one thin line so that everything you see is in one dimension. And at the time, I was kind of thinking of poking fun at VR a little bit because I knew about it, but I had never tried it and I never, it hadn't been accessible to me yet. I think, like many of you at this gathering, I started using 3D creation tools, Blender and Unity during the pandemic. So before that, it was still kind of a novelty and a bit foreign to me. But I had kind of been thinking about, these different ways that we see the world around us. And um, so I ended up creating this kind of performance, arranging a performance called 1D Simulator. And you can see on the next slide, I created what I was calling sensory deprivation chambers. And the way that they were constructed, they were very lo-fi. So they were just goggles, like safety goggles, where I blacked out everything in the goggle except for this thin line. And I think I made about 60 of them. So it was a performance piece, but it was also kind of like a guided activity where I would facilitate groups of people up to 60 people, and everybody would get this sort of this little kit that had a pair of these goggles that kind of looked like I never mentioned it at the time, but they sort of looked like they were referencing the headsets that we're all wearing now. Um, and everybody would get a juice box and a pair of earplugs. And the idea was to kind of like block out your sensory perception that you would just hear the sound of like the burbling juice going through the straw. So you wouldn't really hear anything around you and you wouldn't really see very much. And then I would guide the participants through a series of activities where the whole idea was to just like have a different sensory experience, like an alternate experience of the space that you're in. So I thought it would be a relevant place to start for today. And in the next slide is just an image of um, participants using the 1D simulation kits and kind of what they look like sitting around in a space with them on. I was sort of imagining, different ways that we might look together in this space, or the spaces that we're in, the secondary spaces that we're in as well. But yeah, so that's kind of one project I just wanted to reference from the past. But in the next slide, I'm going to start talking a little bit more about the imagery that I'll be sharing with you tonight. And this is also a drawing from a while back, about 10 years ago, when I began using these. One of the methods I like to use when I draw is to kind of find modular, repeatable objects that are kind of everyday items that you might see around in the world. So in this case, the traffic cone or pylon, and I've just kind of stacked them together and repeated them. And I was sort of experimenting in this drawing with how to represent them. So in this case, they kind of are morphed with the body of a snake a little bit, and they kind of look like a creature. And then I sort of started moving away from that and abstracting them a little bit more. So the next slide is that one that you saw at the beginning, I think. Yeah. So this was a painting, and it's actually an oil painting on a big piece of paper, like 30 by 40 inches. And I just did it with a really tiny paintbrush. So I was kind of thinking more about like, what if they're allowed to just stay sort of abstracted, but they still reference this common everyday item, and they sort of like form their own habitat kind of in a vacuum. So that's what's going on here. They're just like repeating and kind of swirling around in like an unidentified sandbox environment with blank white sheet of paper. And Tyler, you can go to the next slide. You can go to the next slide, Tyler. Oh wait, my audio cut out. Okay. Anything now?
I can still hear you, Sunny.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh, okay, so only Tyler can't hear me? Okay, let me message him because he's in charge of the slides.
There we go. He's gone to the next one.
Oh, we're back. Okay, we're back. We're back in business. Okay. So at the same time that I was oh yeah, you can go back 2 slides. Now I had one.
I can hear you now. We're back. We're ready.
Okay, we're back. We're back. He did it. Okay. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Tyler. Yeah, perfect. So at the same time, I was also kind of working with a bunch of other sort of similar like character ideas and working them together into ecosystems. And I actually ended up from those drawings producing a book project. And this was released 3 years ago in 2018. And it shows a bunch of different drawings. They're all hand drawn and then scanned and colored digitally. And I kind of like working in this way, like mixing digital and analog processes together. But in the end, this piece ended up being more suited for a book because it has kind of a narrative arc where it goes through showing like the different life cycles of various invented creatures and then how they interact in ecosystems. So yeah, just again, kind of working with this idea of like a parallel universe of some kind. But in this case, it's in the form of a book. And the next slide is just an example of then also translating some of that imagery back into painting. So like moving back and forth between bookmaking, drawing, painting, like these different media. So on the left is the digital image blown up. That's from the book. So if you saw that one, if you're holding it in your hand, it would be 8 by 10 inches. The one on the right is a painting, an acrylic painting on a large panel. So it's like 32 by 44 inches or something like that. So, and I've changed it a little bit as the context changes. I'm able to use the materials a little bit differently. So, and in this case, this is a creature that is kind of based on a cloud shape. And then just like repeating that shape and morphing it and changing it until it kind of grows into something else. So, yeah, that's just kind of another example of my work. Let's go to the next slide. So yeah, so this is the character that I'm going to introduce to you tonight. This is its Latin name, Conius longissimus, which was not coined by me, but by very lovely writer at Discorder magazine here in Vancouver, who wrote an article a couple years back about this work. And this is a drawing that was done by hand and then colored in digitally. What's on the next slide? Oh, and this is also just a version of this same imagery, but blown up really big on a billboard. This was from last summer. So yeah, you can kind of maybe see by now that I'm just kind of experimenting with moving this work across and between different mediums. And this is just one example of that. Next slide, please. So then that gets us caught up to last year. And like I said, that was when I first started using Blender and Unity. And my partner, who may join us a little bit later, kind of introduced me to these tools and to this way of working, and kind of like brought me into the idea that I might enjoy working in this parallel universe that we're all in now, which I had been skeptical of in the past, and I still have a lot of questions about how the technology is going to be used. And I know a lot of this group has been talking about those things on the Discord and in some of the other sessions, and I'm really interested to connect with people about how we use technology and like where this is going, right? Like I think we all have a lot of questions about that. So but for me, I was, like this kind of just like alone in my apartment and tinkering around with these digital creation tools. And I decided to do like a 3D version of the cone worm. And so this is situated near where I live. This is down by Burrard Inlet. And for those of you who are in Vancouver, there's there's an inlet that kind of cuts across and divides Vancouver from North Vancouver. So that's where that's located. And that picture is just a phone picture. It's just like a low quality phone picture. So yeah, that was just kind of me playing around with building imagery in Blender. And then I did create a video. I think that's on the next slide. Oh, that's a still from the video. So I was kind of thinking more about, once I got them into this scale where they were instead of kind of being like doodles in my sketchbook, now they're like these life-size objects that resemble things that we see when we walk around the city. And I started thinking more about development and construction and deconstruction and the changes that the land goes through and how the markers that we use to signify these changes, like what they mean and their barriers, when they tell us somewhere to go and when they tell us to stop going, and like all these different things that they signify in our cultures. So I've just been thinking a bit more about that as I start to put them um, into landscapes and like into narratives and into contexts. And so I'll show you. I'll actually just show you this video now. It's about 2 minutes long. Oh, actually, this is you can skip to the next one, Tyler. We don't have to do this video. Let's do this one. Yeah. Yeah, so that probably gives a little bit more context to you all about how I've been kind of imagining them in space. And so the project that I'm working on now is an interactive piece that I think Tyler, go to the next slide. I think that's where the video of the yeah you can play it. It doesn't have sound, so I can talk over it. But this is like 3 of the cone worms in just an empty Unity space, and um, they're all interactable. So you can kind of grab them by the top cone and like spin them around and kind of play with them. And that's what they do so far. um, so yeah, if any at the end has questions about like technical parts of this, I'm totally to talk about that more. But basically, the idea is to try to create an interactive piece that that folks can join into remotely and have an experience together in the space with them. So, um, is there a next slide? I forget. Oh yeah, and this was like a model for how they could look in a real space. So if I were to build like a sculpture um, out of 3D materials, I was kind of like figuring out how they would look in a space. But then I also realized that they would work on their own as 3D sculptures. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So this is the part. Oh, actually, Tyler, show the next slide. And that's just my contact information. Feel free to take a picture of it if you want to. save that info, or you can always just chat with me on the Discord or at one of the social events. But the next thing that I'm going to show you is in 3D. So if you are on a flat screen and you want to switch to your headset, now would be a good time. The piece is on a 2-minute loop, so we're going to play it once through with sound, and then we're going to turn the sound off, so it'll keep looping. And at that point, we'll be able to have some Q&A if anyone has questions. And my partner and collaborator, Spencer, just walked through the door, I think, judging by the sounds I'm hearing. So they may join us for the Q&A. And yeah, Tyler, whenever you're ready, you can activate the cone worms.
It was laborious. Like I couldn't activate worm. No. That's all.
I think it hurts.
I'm moving my chair.
The worm crawling, the worm crawling. This is so cool. I love the worms. Oh, they return to the earth. I worm. Late for the worms. That was awesome.
Thanks everyone. It's really nice to hear everyone giggling. They make me laugh so much I had to mute myself for part of that. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, we're just it's about 7:30 now, and we can just open the floor up and you can just start talking, or you can raise your hand if you want. Krungler, I learned your name in the last section, in the last session, but I forgot.
Yeah, I'm Billy.
Billy, you're right.
So, how was all this like with the animations, 3D animation? Is this all done through Unity?
So the animation was all done in Blender for the most part, and then the animation was exported from Blender into Unity and then spawned into this space by Tyler. So I didn't know how to do that part. So I did the modeling and the animation. And then through putting this together for this session, I learned how to move it into Unity and attach like an animation controller to it. And then Tyler did something magical that I don't understand to make them appear here with us right now. Oh yes, hello. Oh wait, I don't know if, yeah, okay. Dev Pirate?
Yeah. So when you said we should switch from flat screen to VR, just switch to
I love the
VR from
worms.
flat screen, and I just don't know what happened. Could you just explain it again? from the point which you said switch to VR?
Oh yeah, I was just recommending putting a headset on so that you could see the 3D animation in 3D.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. David?
Hi, thanks for the talk. It's great. Just curious if you could talk to us a little bit more from a technical point of view about the process of um, how is it being created? Is it being created as a web app inside Unity, or what is the actual process of packaging inside Unity and then spawning it into
Oh,
Allspace?
okay. Yeah, I think that's actually a Tyler question. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Tyler.
Yeah, I certainly can. It's a great question. So Unity and Altspace, there's a tool that works within Unity called the Altspace Uploader. And so it's actually quite simple. Sunny did 99% of the work, and all I did was take her or their animation and convert it into a type of 3D object called a kit and upload it to Altspace, and then that allows me to spawn it into a world inside of Altspace. So it's a add-on for Unity that connects to Altspace and allows you to move assets into Altspace.
Awesome, thank you.
We should almost do a session on that, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I also just want to say, I want to keep on going with questions, but sorry, Tyler is our tech director and he is amazing. He has saved my life multiple times in the last couple weeks. Just round of applause for Tyler. I don't think he slept last night, so this is probably a good moment to give him some applause.
Thank you, Alex.
He slept earlier today, though. Don't worry too much.
Yeah, I did get an hour and a half in there.
All right, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt the Q&A, but had to shout him out.
No, I totally agree. Tyler's been a wizard for me as well, and I think a lot of people are curious about the things that you've done here. And yeah, I agree. Like a special session about that would be amazing.
Did I see a baby cone worm, or am I nuts?
You know, I think
Baby
that
cone worm is over this way.
yeah, I think that there might have been like an accidental cone worm that was like really far away, and I couldn't find it on my computer. But now that we're in this like different kind of
Behind the
space, I think it's
screen.
showing up.
Baby
Hey,
worm.
baby, don't lie.
But it looks like a baby worm, which is pretty
It's a little
special.
baby worm.
Do you have another question, David?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just curious about when you're working in Unity again and you are thinking that you're going to put it in this type of space, how you conceive of scale, how you think about scale and distances and all those kind of parameters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's oh sorry, hang on. Oh sorry about that. um So yeah, like scaled the so since I had been working with this imagery on like a very small scale, I wanted to take the opportunity to scale them to life size. So that was why I chose to do it that way. So when I was building the scene in Blender, I just sized everything as though it were in the physical world. And that was how I kind of ended. And I think that's how a lot of people kind of start out. You start by kind of, you know, it's like when you're learning how to draw and you're just drawing what you see. In this case, I'm just sculpting things at the scale that I would normally see them in. Okay, I think I see what's happening here. Okay, so my partner Spencer just joined, but their sound is on, and so I can hear myself echoing. So give me 1 second while we just sort this out. Yeah, okay, I think that's better now. And Spencer, where are you? Can you raise your hand? Are you in space yet? Okay. Okay, we'll sort that out later. So yeah, did that answer your question, David?
Yep, really. Some thanks.
Yeah. Oh, Joshua. Hi.
Hi. I kind of had a follow-up question about
creating in Blender, and creating the animation, does this kind of spawn as like a physical object? And all of the raising and lowering and actionable movements that you made were pre-existing before they got to Unity?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they were all I gave them each an armature in Blender and animated them individually in Blender before I exported anything. So I didn't modify anything in Unity.
And so I guess after Tyler got them, they spawn as an object or something in here all together to do the animation that you created.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just a package that comes in and gets launched and sized into the space, and then after that, it's just kind of running on its own. But yeah, I was also kind of exploring like, could we get the interactable version of them in here? But I think some of you probably, if you've tried to do that before, it's I don't know. I'm assuming there's ways. I know there's ways to do it, but I don't know how to do that yet. So, but that's definitely a goal that I want to try to do next. Because I have them interactable on like in a file that I can just play through my headset, but I haven't learned how to bring them into AltSpace in an interactable way yet. Yeah, so instead they're kind of doing this animation that is supposed to illustrate how I imagine they would move around in the world. I think I saw I'm like in the worms now, so I can't see everyone's hand, but I think I saw a hand over here. Was that you, Dev Pirate?
Yeah, it was me. So I have two questions. One of them is, I may be mistaken, but I think the normals of these are flipped in the wrong direction. Was this intentional or was it not?
Oh, do you mean like so that they're facing a certain way?
No, so the normals, like right here in the stand part of this stuff, you could see that the normal seems to be flipped in the wrong direction. Was this intentional, or is this what happens when you put armature and animate it?
Oh, I'm not sure if I understand that question. Do you know, Tyler, do you know what that means? See?
It does look so in 3D software. There's the surface of the polygon has a normal, which is the direction that it faces, and it does appear that some of them may have flipped normals, and that's just a common thing when modeling. Because of course Blender, unless you ask it to, does not show you that you have flipped normals until you take it somewhere else and discover that that has happened. But it's hard
Oh,
to tell
okay,
if
right.
all of them may have flipped normals, but it does appear that some of them have flipped normals. But
Oh yeah, I think I'm still a beginner enough that I don't know how to recognize that. So it's a good question.
Oh, okay.
Billy?
Hi. Yeah. I'm very curious because I'm very new to VR and like virtual art, and so I was wondering, as a VR artist, that's the appropriate term. How do you go about to getting your art seen, and what communities do you go to bring people to see stuff like this?
Yeah, I love that question. That's a great question. This is my first time exhibiting a piece of V art. So that's the only experience that I have so far. So I've been attending a couple of other exhibitions in physical spaces. The last one I went to, I think, was before the pandemic started. And it was kind of like a gallery space where people were exhibiting different VR pieces and headsets, and you would go in and get on like a wait list where you would kind of wait in line to try on the headset to try the art piece. And it was, similarly to this conference, there was a lot of variety, a lot of people with different backgrounds, like coming from dance or theater, or fine arts, all different kinds of performance. So it seems like that's kind of how the community is emerging. And I think I think it's a really good question because I think it's emerging right now. Like there's not one place where people go to see these kinds of works or learn about them, right? Like if you've seen the Museum of Other Realities, that's like quite a different type of space for looking at this kind of art. So I would definitely encourage you to just ask everyone here that question because everyone will probably have a different answer. And I think it's still really kind of a new thing that's happening. But I would love to see maybe like a meetup in alt space for visual artists who are transitioning their work or like experimenting in this medium because I haven't seen that yet. And I think it would be really fun. I would go to it.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add to this thing about the Museum of Other Realities, which is you connect your headset to like a PC, but it is just like extraordinary. And Sunny, I feel like your work should totally be featured there. It would fit in with the like amazing works there. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Yeah, it's for those of you who haven't been there, it's like a space like this that's been built to house other things. So it's built like a museum, and you go through and there's like sculptures, but some of them move, and some of them do things that a physical sculpture wouldn't be able to do, which I think is really exciting. I think it's a really interesting starting point. Like I think now is a really fun time to be doing this because we don't know like what kind of horrible Facebookification is coming next, and we can kind of be free to just play around in the space. So yeah, again, I'm really excited to see what this community comes up with for how we're going to share our art forms with each other next.
I'm really curious. Where can you find this museum of alternate realities?
Yeah,
I'll post
I
about
think
it in the Discord.
yeah.
I
Okay,
can put some
awesome.
info up there. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah, perfect. Because I found
Thank you.
it I found it through Steam, and it was like I don't know if it's always free, but there was like free access through Steam, so I signed up that way. But I haven't figured out how to. I'm on an Oculus now, so I haven't figured out if I can see it through this headset. So like, yeah, I'm still learning about the different like compatibility things, but yeah, it's very cool. I'll also post another thing on the Discord that's like it's not a museum, but it's like just a very strange experience that I found on Steam. That's like not a game, it's just like a weird building with like strange trees and like cool water features and stuff, and like it kind of looks like an art installation, but I'm not really sure what the point of it is, but it's like one of those things where I want to meet the creator and like talk to them about their ideas about it. So yeah, I think there's definitely potential for people to make more spaces like that. Sasha?
Hi, yes, I loved your presentation, and I also just have a random question about where you found the inspiration for the moments of animation. Like in that video, kept wanting the pieces of the these babies to like link up and make a like snake, like make a bigger one. And I don't know whether that tension was like on purpose that you were trying to not do that and like I just like so I guess my question is like where was the inspiration for animation coming from with these abstracted or surreal objects?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was trying to imagine that they were creatures that were living amongst us in the near future, and that they have their own life cycle. And then I was trying to imagine like the different things that would happen in their life cycle. So I'm working on like a longer version of this video where some of those moments are expanded upon. Like there's a whole scene where they don't do what you suggested where they link up together, but they do the opposite where like a long one will break apart into two smaller ones. Or like two long ones will kind of twist together in like a mating ritual. So yeah, I was just trying to imagine like different behaviors that they might have in their actual lives and then try to illustrate those.
great. I love that in abstract stuff, like, reinterpretation is kind of fine with the viewer. So it was like a really wonderful experience of being able to make up my own narrative watching it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sunny, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In your presentation, some of the videos that you were shooting where you were in a physical space but with the digital content looked like augmented reality or mixed reality. Have you been exploring activating physical spaces with digital content through augmented reality? Or is that something you're
I
considering?
really want to, yeah, I really want to try that. And like I'm just a person who if I like something and I think it looks cool, I'll try to copy it even though I don't understand how it works. So that's why it looks like that. But they're actually just phone pictures that I took around my neighborhood and then put them onto like planes in Blender and then animated the armatures like moving around in front of the pictures. So that's why it looks like that. But I do think it would be really interesting. Like one of the ideas that Spencer and I are trying to develop together is like how we could use like an actual traffic cone in the physical world to like activate an AR experience on like maybe a phone or some other kind of device. So yeah, I am really interested in that.
Is this several short animations or one long one? And if so, how long is it?
Oh, like 3D one that's in the space? Oh, I'm so sorry. Hang on 1 second. I have to myself for a second.
Hello.
Go for it.
Hey, I guess everyone can hear my question now. I just to repeat it again. I was wondering if this is one long animation or several short animations, and if so, how long is it?
Oh yeah, so the 3D animation that's in the space right now is about 2 minutes long, and it's right about to end, so it's good timing for this question. It ends when they go under the ground, and then there's about a 15-second gap, and then they'll come back up from the ground and start looping again.
Very cool, thank you.
Sorry about that break. That was my doorbell.
Did you have a question, Nicole?
I did, actually, yeah.
Nicole has a question for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah. I was just wondering what is it about the cones that you were so drawn to that you've been doing all these things with them, like the paintings and that, like just the subject or this idea of cones? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. Wondered to know what it is.
Yeah, no, of course, it's a great question. Yeah, so that was kind of why I was also showing that imagery of the book project, like because they're um, it includes like a wider range of subject matter, like different kinds of things that I've found interesting to draw over the years that have like morphed into kind of hybrid creatures. But I think the reason that I keep coming back to the cone and working with it over and over again is just partly like the mechanics of it. Like I love that it's this like interlocks into something segmented um, that kind of like messes with scale. Like you can make them really small or really big, and they have quite different, like people interpret them quite differently depending on the scale. They're also quite universal. Like I find that people recognize them and can make associations with them across, different types of social divides. Um, and like I also just find that people tend to be delighted by them when they first see them in a way where like some of my other work can be like a bit more like mysterious or like cryptic on some level, or like maybe even a bit like inaccessible. Whereas these are like such a universal form that people seem to be able to connect with them a little bit better. So I just keep coming back to them, and I feel like I'm just not done with them yet.
I think with that, we move into the section of this evening where, well, first of all, huge round of emojis for Sunny and the cone worms. And second, Taylor, I wonder if, and Sunny, I wonder if it's possible to get the music back and we can just hang out in this space and people can come up and ask you questions if they'd like for the next 15 minutes.
Doable.
Yeah. So much, everyone.
Would build the screen. Unsightly Canada Council for the Arts. Just get rid of that.
Oh yeah, Garrett, you can turn off the presentation screen.
Hope that wasn't recorded. Dang it. I just want to chill out with some cone worm.
I know it's like kind of fun to try to get in them.
Yeah. That's funny.
Cone worm.
These worms.
It's really, I hadn't seen them like in a room scale space until a couple days ago when we got them in here for the first time. So yeah, they're still kind of enchanting me.
Have you thought about making them into an MRE that can maybe move him around?
What's that? It's an MRE.
That's like an interactive thing in Altspace.
Oh, okay.
You play with the paper airplanes or the darts or any of the objects that are in there. Those are MREs.
Oh, okay.
Interactive items and all.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was imagining them being at first, but I don't know how to do that yet. Yeah, like I think. Oh yeah, there's one. See, sorry.
Funny, I should introduce you. I invited him because I thought he would dig it. But Google Earth is like kind of a bit of a far out there artist, visual, 3D creator. I mean, like it's difficult to describe Google Earth as he does a lot of work on Altspace and
cool.
has done a lot with chroma key types of things. Here that have kind of blown my mind. Yeah.
What? Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that. Like, do you share your work in Altspace?
Production manager person when I was doing my job.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a couple of different worlds. And some of them have been broken from the upgrade and fixing them still. But
Okay.
I have a world that's a marble run where you can move ramps around, and there's the walls that fall and roll down. Then I have another building with cards, another house of cards world where you can have physics, so you can lean against each other. It's like I've been interested in using hinges they're called rigid bodies when you have, and
Right.
you can do hinges in Unity.
Hi, Sydney.
To constrain.
Oh, okay.
Can I take a picture of
So you might be
you
able to
between the worms?
just like chain some things together
Here.
that have solid body physics and like maybe they'll flop around or I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that sounds cool. Like I've experimented with that a little bit in Blender with giving everything, I forget what they're called now. But basically I like put a bunch of cones in the air and then gave them all gravity so they all like fell into a big pile. And I was just like kind of experimenting with what would happen if there was like big piles of them and you could like push through them kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do stuff like that.
Why is that a feature? That's so funny.